guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty.
Guilty on all charges. The jury hands down its verdict for former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in the murder of George Floyd last May. Chauvin escorted out in handcuffs. Now the healing can begin.
Nothing can ever bring their brother, their father back. But this can be a giant step forward in the march toward justice in America.
For much of the last year, activists have said, no justice, no peace. Tonight, protesters say they've seen justice, and it's been largely peaceful. Good evening, I'm Alex Michelson.
And I'm Christine Devine. As Marla Tejas reports, former Minnesota police officer Derek Chauvin convicted on all charges.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
Guilty on all 3 counts in the death of George Floyd, including the most serious charge of second-degree murder. Judge Peter Cahill reading the verdict just after 4 o'clock Central Time as ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin sat in the courtroom, his face obscured by a mask.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty.
The 45-year-old defendant, now a convicted murderer who faces up to 40 years in prison, showing little to no emotion as the judge immediately revoked his bail. Deputies leading Chauvin away, his hands cuffed behind his back. Outside the Hennepin County Courthouse, honking horns and cheers of relief.
We've been praying for this verdict. We've been praying for our community.
The crowd quickly growing upon hearing the jury reached a guilty verdict after just over 10 hours of deliberations.
History says that, these kind of cases get thrown out. The guys that look like me get shot down by the police are considered criminals, and that their lives don't really have any value. And today we found out that our lives do have value.
Today, we are able to breathe again.
Floyd's brother, Felonious Floyd, who testified during the trial, alongside other family members today, family attorney Benjamin Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton in a joint news conference, all making it clear the fight for equality and racial justice is far from over, but enjoying the moment for now.
And we're going to fight for you too. We're going to fight for everybody.
What a day to be a Floyd, man. Wow.
That last moment there from Terrence Floyd, another brother of George. He also got a round of applause when he called the jury's decision historic and monumental. Now back to Chauvin. Again, he faces up to 40 years in prison. He will be sentenced in 2 months. Marla Tejas, Fox 11 News. And we have breaking news to tell you about tonight. We're going to take you live to the Beverly Grove area and show you this group that is gathered in protest there at Beverly and Fairfax. We're going to have that for you right now as you take a look here. It's a rather small group. We know that LAPD there is on the scene, and there's word that they were going to take a knee for 9 minutes and 29 seconds in honor of the death of George Floyd.
But the scene that we keep seeing all over Southern California and all over Minneapolis tonight is basically peaceful gatherings. And we have not seen any reports of looting or major problems tonight, so we will keep an eye on this one. The police are there with them as well. Now, we were also hearing from the teenager who recorded George Floyd's death, her video, watched by millions of people around the world, including by those jurors.
Her name is Darnella Frazier. She reacted to the news of the verdict with this.
Quote, I just cried so hard. This last hour, my heart was beating so fast. I was so anxious, anxiety busting through the roof. But to know guilty on all 3 charges, thank you, God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. George Floyd, we did it. Justice has been served.
Shortly after the verdict, Black Lives Matter LA put out a call to gather outside the home of Mayor Eric Garcetti to demand immediate police reform. Gina Silva joining us live from Hancock Park there with more. Gina?
Well, Christine, I can tell you that the mayor's neighborhood is quiet tonight. The demonstrators have already left for the night. Earlier, they talked about the verdict and how they took a moment to breathe a sigh of relief. But only a moment, because they say the work is far from over. Protesting outside of Mayor Eric Garcetti's house is how members of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles spent their afternoon.
Because he continues to feed a rotten system of policing.
Mayor Garcetti isn't the only LA official BLM co-founder Melina Abdullah has a problem with. LAPD Chief Michael Moore and LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva are also being targeted by BLM.
We know who they are. They're entrenched in an unjust and murderous system, and we have nothing to say until they say that they're ready to resign.
Abdullah is pushing to defund the police, and she goes as far as to say law enforcement should be abolished.
Policing is an irredeemable institution and has to be replaced with community-driven solutions.
Absurd ideas, ridiculous ideas.
Retired LAPD cop Dennis Zine says abolishing police departments is simply not realistic.
It's ridiculous to say, let's get rid of the chief of police and the sheriff of Los Angeles County and let's just disband. God forbid, who would be protecting society in the city of Los Angeles? And when you really examine the situation, a lot of the problems in certain communities is a lack of a family foundation.
But Abdullah says BLM will continue to protest until real change is accomplished.
We know that the millions of people who rose up all around the globe after George Floyd's life was stolen, that the reason that Derek Chauvin was tried and now convicted is because of our activism.
Now, the mayor was not home at the time of the protest. You can certainly expect more demonstrations against the mayor, the LAPD, and the LA County Sheriff's Department. Reporting from Hancock Park, I'm Gina Silva, Fox 11 News.
In fact,